Welcome to another episode of On the Bandwagon. We've got another great episode for you guys today. I got myself here, Thomas Lee, James Kerr over in Sydney as well.
What's up, everybody?
I've got Danny Siddick over in Vancouver, down on the ground over in the States. What's up?
What up? What up? What's going on?
All right, guys, let's get straight into it. We've missed a bit of time in between our first podcast and this one, but we'll kick off with first round rapid fire. Let's go with Cavs and Pacers. Danny, what are your thoughts on this series?
No surprise here. Cavs were going to win, but I thought Pacers would give a bit of more challenge, but I think the Cavaliers have stepped up the game, so yeah, no surprises there.
And how about Paul George throwing some shade at his team? I think the writing's on the wall for him. Where's some landing places you reckon he'll go, James?
Well, I think the Lakers. Not sure why he wants to join the Lakers, if I'm honest, but if I was him, I would wait until I'm a free agent and then sign rather than force my way there via trade. Let's not have another Carmelo Anthony to New York situation where a team gets gutted for a superstar.
I think there were no surprises that Cavs were going to take it in four. They were just on fire. They just turned on the switch once the playoffs hit. LeBron James again, just insane. What do you reckon about that performance, Danny?
I think LeBron's definitely on a different level this playoff series. He's playing at his best that I've ever seen him play before, and I think we'll get into this a bit later on, but he's always been a great player.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely not a surprise. I mean, playoff LeBron is playoff LeBron. He's the most dominant player in the world.
All right, next one, Toronto-Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee gave Toronto a bit of a scare. Antetokounmpo with some couple of big games, wasn't able to carry it. All right, James, what do you reckon about that series? You got something important to say?
Just before we start, I'd like to hear Danny pronounce Antetokounmpo.
I'm just calling the Greek freak.
I think that series was kind of boring. Milwaukee's not there yet. We'll see what happens down the future for both these teams, but they both have key holes they need to fill, I think.
What do you reckon, Danny? You think Jabari Parker, if he was there, he would have made the series a bit more interesting?
Ifs, buts, maybe, but at the end of the day, I picked Toronto to win. They just have a bit more experience, so no surprises again there. And it's Eastern Conference. I mean, Eastern Conference has been such a bore, so let's just move on.
Washington, Atlanta. I think this was a pretty interesting series. Atlanta came back after a 2-0 deficit, and they stepped it up. Definitely gave them a scare in a couple of games, but John Wall in that last game to close it out, I think it was just massive.
We should probably talk about this in a little more detail, but I actually think John Wall is probably the best point guard in the East right now, including Kyrie Irving.
That's a big call. Better than Isaiah Thomas?
Better than Isaiah Thomas. Much better than Isaiah Thomas, I would say. And I know everybody's Isaiah Thomas lost his sister. He dropped 53. It's a lovely narrative, and I feel sorry for the guy. I do. But end of the day, John Wall beats him hands down.
Just to put it out there, I've been on the John Wall bandwagon since he came in back a few years ago. So just putting it out there.
On the bandwagon, Daddy. Been there since day one. Boston, Chicago. Boston won at 4-2. I think Chicago definitely had a good chance, and then definitely came out swinging with Rondo and Jimmy Butler. But I think Isaiah stepped it up, and that was a big win for Boston.
Well, I think the biggest surprise here was Chicago winning the first two games in Boston. The thing is, though, I truly believe that Chicago would have beaten Boston if Rondo was still healthy. So that would have been a big, big surprise and a big upset. But Boston got there in the end, and we'll move on with it.
Yeah, shout out to all the Chicago Bulls fans who were not on Rondo's bandwagon during the regular season when all the comments were cut him, he's useless, get rid of him, and then come playoffs time, he kills it for them in the first two games, and then they start getting smashed, and now everybody's like, oh, Rondo's so good. If only we had Rondo, we would have won the series, blah, blah, blah.
I agree. That's primetime Rondo for you. He performs well when he's on nationalized television just to keep his contracts coming in and the money coming in.
Show me the money.
Shout out to Rondo for that short sleeve maroon suit. Huh? You guys see that?
Yeah, that was horrible.
No, I didn't see that.
Oh man, you go rewatch when he tried Trick Crowder, and you might get some style tips from him. All right, let's go Utah Clippers. I think this one was the most interesting series out of the first round. Blake getting injured again, Gobert being in and out, also Hayward out with the stomach bug. Anyone thinks that stomach bug was suspicious? Maybe a dodgy sandwich, maybe slid under the door.
Every time it's the stomach virus and he's eating. I don't know what sandwich he was eating, but yeah, I wouldn't eat that.
Well, look, I don't think there was anything suspicious. I mean, people have been injured in the playoffs or gotten sick in the playoffs before. definitely the most interesting series, and I think the Clippers are definitely at a crossroads, and I think we'll talk about it a little later in more detail.
You guys think Utah deserved to advance? You think they were the better team that series?
Well, I picked Utah to go through, even with Blake Griffin, so no surprise there again.
Shout out to ISO Joe resurrecting his career in Utah.
He's been a bit quiet this series against the Warriors, but we'll get to that shortly, I guess. All right, Houston OKC. I think this was an interesting one, the battle of the MVPs. James, what are your thoughts on this series?
So I would say, first of all, Mr. Siddiq over there made a ridiculous claim that OKC's role players were better than Houston's role players. Can we just set that straight first?
But I'd like to clarify that I did say that OKC players are better, and I still stand by that. But it's the Houston system that allowed the Houston players to play the way they did. I still stand by OKC players being better individually.
Bro, how are they better? They are the biggest bunch of scrubs. Andre Roberson was getting laughed at from the bench, bro. He couldn't make 2 free throws to save his life.
That's all in retrospect. Like before the series, if you look at Houston players versus OKC players, and you went down and listened to say, if we're picking teams, there would be more OKC players being picked before Houston players. I guarantee you that.
No way. You're on your own on that bandwagon, mate. That bandwagon's heading straight for the edge of the cliff.
Yeah, well, if it's heading for the cliff, I'm jumping off.
All right, Spurs, Memphis. I think there was no surprises here, but I do think Memphis had a few good games. I think Marc Gasol had a few big games. Zach Randolph played well in 1 or 2 of them, but there was just no stopping Kawhi and the Spurs.
Definitely an easy series to call. I saw Chauncey Billups ask Coach Fizdale if he had room for another 40-year-old on the roster. I'd just like to say, Billups, I would love to see that. Let's get back in Memphis. VC and Chauncey Billups leading the way. That'd be quite interesting.
All right, last game to cover Golden State, Portland. No surprises there. I just don't think Portland's got the front court to back up their really good backcourt. But that last game, McCollum and Lillard just didn't show up. What do you guys reckon?
Well, Golden State, they're just proving again and again that they're just on a different level.
Yeah, I would agree. No surprises there, but I saw an article today that the players donated their playoff revenue to the coaches and the support team. So I think that's a really smart decision. It's not a lot of money for the players, but anything they can do to give back to the people who support them.
That series would have been quite different if Nurkic was relatively healthy. I think watching him at the beginning of, I think it was the 3rd game, he looked pretty good. You know, his body just gave in later towards that game.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think maybe if he was playing, they would win. They would maybe steal 1 game, but end result, Golden State still would have gone through.
All right, moving on to round 2. It's been a pretty interesting series so far with all the games. Danny, what do you think is the most interesting that stood out in round 2?
Well, the biggest thing I'm seeing in round 2 and so far in the playoffs, the performance of the Cavs, given that they were struggling towards the second half of the season. You know, I actually thought that they would battle through the East teams, especially, you know, with Pacers and Toronto and Boston. But so far they are looking unstoppable, and that's credit to LeBron James. But I think a big difference this year is also Kevin Love and his confidence and the way he's fit into the system.
So not a surprise to me. Been following LeBron his whole career. His playoff numbers are always absolutely ridiculous. It's what we've come to expect. I think Tyronn Lue said it best when he recently said the reason why, you know, Barkley and other great players from back in the day had no rings was because Jordan was stopping everybody from getting rings. And he said, in this era of basketball, it's LeBron James stopping everybody else from getting rings.
That's a big call. I don't know about that. I don't think he's stopping people getting rings. I think he's stopping East teams getting into the conference finals, but I don't think he's stopping teams winning rings.
That's exactly right. He's stopping the East teams. Anyone from the East he's stopping. But other than that, I wouldn't agree with that. And plus, I don't agree with Tyronn Lue, whatever he's doing. Like, he's just there. He's not really coaching. LeBron's the coach. So
why don't you ask Larry Bird how it feels to be unemployed?
Shots fired.
He stepped down.
If LeBron James was not in the East blocking his way to success year after year after year after year, I guarantee you he's not stepping down, and I guarantee you Paul George isn't saying I want to go to the West.
Yeah, but you're saying, because like your statement about Jordan was stopping the East and the West, because when he gets to the finals, he's winning every single time. But LeBron, he's almost stopping the East. I mean, he got lucky a few times against Golden State with Draymond Green going down, and he got swept by the Spurs in his first go around. He didn't show up for the Dallas series. So, I mean, like, is he really stopping everyone from the championship? No. East, definitely. The East, yes, but I don't think anyone in the West worries about the Cavs.
So I don't know. Jordan didn't stop everybody from winning rings neither. I mean, there were other teams that won rings before, in between, and after Jordan. For a good stretch, he stopped people. And I think when LeBron's career is over, for a good stretch, he's going to stop people from winning rings starting this year.
Did LeBron James stop Dirk Nowitzki from winning a ring? Did LeBron James stop Tim Duncan from winning a ring?
Okay, I'll give you the Dirk one, but I'm not going to give you the Tim Duncan one. He had the biggest scrub team. He was still quite young. The Spurs were the Spurs with like vets, Pop. They got Tim Duncan, they got Parker, Ginobili, all in their primes. Obviously, we were going to get swept that series. You can't compare Greg Popovich's systems to Mike Brown ordering me take away.
I'm not talking about his first career. I'm talking about when he had Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, all in their prime. 3 All-Stars all in their prime. That's what I'm talking about. And that's when they got dominated. They got absolutely dominated. He's not stopping people from rings.
I think we agree to disagree, but he definitely stopped a lot of people from getting rings. Let's say that. And we spanked the Spurs. We spanked the Spurs the year before they spanked us.
I think it's definitely created this culture in the East where teams just haven't been able to keep their core players and their core groups. I mean, you look at teams, at the beginning of the LeBron era, people that, the teams like Pistons and Celtics that just haven't kept cores because, LeBron and the teams he's been on has just dominated the East. You look at Atlanta, they were, meant to be up and comers a couple of years ago. Boston's just formed their team. The only one that's sort of kept a relative core is Washington, and now they're sort of reaping the fruits of that labor. So definitely LeBron's had an impact on the game, more so on the East, in my opinion. I think the West is still sort of carried along. You look at their core teams, Golden State have been very consistent with their team. The Spurs, definitely.
Did you just say Golden State have been very consistent with their team? Consistent as in consistently winning, or consistent with just the roster that they've got?
Both.
They've only won they've only been good for 3 years, man. Come on. You're on the bandwagon. You only joined the bandwagon 3 years ago.
Oh, they weren't contenders, but they were still in the playoffs.
I think what Thomas is saying is that the Golden State, they've kept their core and they've drafted and they've built the team from the inside. Now they're, reaping those rewards. And even if it is only in the past 4 or 5 years, I mean, that's still that's half a decade. That's still a long time.
Do I have amnesia? Did they draft Kevin Durant?
You know what? Kevin Durant joining Golden State is a completely different topic.
Now that we've also mentioned Golden State, I think we should also talk about how dysfunctional they look. I know that they've been blowing teams out, but when I watch their games, when I watch their post-game press conferences, I just don't feel like they're one unit. Kevin Durant is trying to take control of the team. I think Steph was originally taking a back seat for the greater good of the team, but now he realizes that he's losing control of the team. I think he's trying to get it back. So I don't know how they're going to address that, but if they play like that against the Cavs, I think we'll sweep them.
I see your point, and I think if Steve Kerr was still around to manage the personalities, which I think he's fantastic at, you wouldn't see this sort of dysfunction. If your leadership's gone or your leadership is weak, i.e. Mike Brown, there's going to be a flow-on effect. I think that's what we're seeing right now. Kevin Durant's got a lot on his shoulders. He's put a lot of pressure on himself. If the Golden State win with or without him, they're still going to be good. But he wants to make sure that Golden State win because of him. So I think that's where he's trying to take over.
A couple of games when Kevin Durant was out and watching those games, I think it looked like the old Golden State again, the ball movement, screens. But, sometimes you just need that guy to just take over. And I think today was proof that KD definitely adds to that team. He put the team on his back and he gave him the win.
I would say Golden State had no trouble finding players to take over the game before Kevin Durant got there. Let's be honest, they had the 2-time and first unanimous MVP on the squad, and they make him look like a role player out there sometimes with inability to get him the ball. That's a big issue. If I had a 2-time MVP on my squad, he would touch the ball as often as possible. I don't care if Kevin Durant's on the team. I don't care if Klay Thompson's on the team. Draymond Green should never touch that ball.
No, I disagree. I think Draymond Green's been hitting those threes. I think he's been stretching the floor well for them.
I think they all made it a point to make him the, I guess, the offensive focal point. And I think Steve Kerr managed to talk Steph Curry into, taking a seat back. And now if you watch some of their plays, or you watch some of the offensive systems, you watch Steph Curry, he's usually used as a decoy. He's the one setting those back picks as a decoy. And then, when he sets that back pick, the big man doesn't know whether to go to Steph Curry. And then, the person that Steph Curry is setting a pick for then just slips to the basket or whatever. So he's being used more as a decoy now. But then that adds to my point around when Steve Kerr's gone now, then no one's there to manage that sort of expectation between the players.
All right, next we're on the Boston-Washington rivalry. You remember during the regular season, Washington wore all black to the game. Boston looked pretty good in game one, but there was a real close game in game two. What do you guys think of the series, and what are your surprises, disappointments?
Wizards just cannot hold a lead. Honestly, I think in game one they were up 17 in the first quarter. No, they lost that. In game two, they were up double digits. It was late in the third, early fourth. They lost that. They managed to hold on to a big lead in game three, but I think they were just at home. They've sort of fixed that now, and I think going forward, they're going to win the rest of the games. I think Washington end up winning 4-2.
Firstly, it's great to see a good, tight, contested series from two teams that genuinely hate each other. I want to talk about the Kelly Olynyk, Kelly Oubre situation for a bit. Kelly Oubre Jr. got suspended. The suspension was passed down today, so he'll be out for game 4. A lot of people who didn't watch the game were wondering why he reacted so badly to Olynyk's screen. Olynyk does raise his forearm and give him a bit of a hit, but when you hit a guy twice with the same dirty play, you got to expect them to come back. And I actually support Oubre in this situation. You can't let a team punk you like that, like another team's player punk you like that. If we were playing pickup, I would have done the exact same thing.
Anyone think that Kelly Olynyk flopped a little bit over there? I thought he took a bit of a dive.
100% Kelly Olynyk flopped.
He flopped bad. I also think Kelly Olynyk, known for being dirty, for flopping, he took out Kevin Love's shoulder. I still haven't forgiven him for that, costing us our first Cavs championship. And then there was a picture in the Celtics Bulls series where he did the exact same dirty move that he did to Kevin Love to Robin Lopez, trying to box him out, yanking his shoulder, not even boxing out. That's just bad NBA play. I think the league needs to do something about him. Otherwise, you're going to see a lot more scuffles, period.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Kelly Olynyk is known for dirty plays, and he knows it as well. And you know what? That's, as a teammate, as his teammate, you wouldn't mind that. He's one of those players where love him on your team, but hate him if you're on the other team. But going back to the Kelly Oubre, you're actually backing Kelly Oubre in his action to retaliate like that?
100%. It's playoffs. It's intense basketball. The teams don't like each other. If we were playing pickup, Danny, and a guy hit you twice with a hard screen like that, I think even you would turn around and shove him back. So I got no issues with it. I got the issue with the suspension, though. He shouldn't be suspended. He already got kicked out of that game.
Yeah, but this is an NBA game and there's a lot on the line, and I know that if I retaliate in that way, there would be repercussions. So he's just got to be smarter about that. I think that was purely a rookie move, and there's other ways to get back at people who give you a hard hit. If someone gives me a hard hit, I'm going back during an actual play, then I'll give him something, like give him a little elbow, a little pinch or whatever to get him back. That's when you get him back.
Where you pinching him?
I used the wrong word. That's not. I don't pinch.
I didn't think it was that bad of a screen. I think it was a big flop, and he sold it really well. Do you think missing Kelly Oubre would be a big deal for Washington?
No, I don't think so. He definitely plays a good role for them, but I think actually the converse side of having him miss the game should hopefully inspire the Wizards to play better. If I'm the coach, I'm going out there pre-game, I'm telling them, Oubre can't play. He was defending himself. these Boston Celtics are trying to hurt you out there. You got to stick up for yourselves and you got to play hard for your teammate who can't play. So I'd be using it as inspiration.
In the playoffs, I think you need everybody that you can get, whether it be the sixth man or the 15th man. Everyone counts, and Kelly Oubre has been playing well for them, and he's a bit of a bulldog on defense, and he brings that sort of edge as well for Washington and their bench. Although his impact may not be that great, it's still a bit of a loss, which I think is why it was such not a great move by Kelly Oubre to retaliate in that way. I mean, like I said, there are other ways to retaliate. Having said that, though, he does not deserve the suspension. But in today's game, breathing on a player warrants a suspension, apparently.
I hate to see what happens with a bit of pinching in today's game as well.
Pitching gets you suspended for the season.
That's some run out test malice in the palace.
Oh, just moving on, I do want to just talk about the Spurs and Houston game, Spurs and Houston series. Sorry, what I'm taking away from that is Kawhi has been playing out of his mind right now, and I just wanted to pose this question to you fellas right now: LeBron versus Kawhi, who do you think is better, right? As of today, who is having a better playoff series?
Kawhi's really come out this season even stronger than last season. He's been amazing for the Spurs. I think he's just taken that team and put it on his back. You sort of forget that the other guys, his backup players and his role players are, Pau Gasol, LaMarcus Aldridge, those guys have sort of taken a back seat because Kawhi's just been so amazing. He's just been carrying them. I know they've got a great system and everything, but a lot of games down the stretch, he's the one that's just playing pretty much iso ball, and he's just been killing it. Now, whether he's as great as LeBron, that's hard to call. I think, LeBron's got the support in the past couple of seasons, with these role players, and LeBron's taken it to another level again. But to say one's better than another, I think it's a really tough call. If I had to build a team and had to pick one of the guys to build around, it's got to be LeBron, I think.
LeBron James, hands down. How's this even a question?
I actually think it's closer than you guys actually think. And I'm actually leaning towards Kawhi Leonard at this point in time. Yes, LeBron, his legacy is great, and Kawhi's legacy so far is not even in the stratosphere, the same stratosphere as LeBron. I think at this point in time, Kawhi, I think, is a better overall player than LeBron James. And it's proven because right now he's got the number one PER in the playoffs so far.
I would strongly disagree with that, and for a few reasons. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing Kawhi. I think he's top 3 players in the NBA right now. The way he's improved his offense this season has been absolutely amazing. The reason why I wouldn't put him in the same level as LeBron James as of yet, I'm not saying he can't get there, is the way LeBron leads his team and makes everybody on the team better is a subtle impact that Kawhi Leonard I don't think quite has mastered yet. I mean, Kawhi, everybody's saying Kawhi's doing it all on offense. He's scoring 36, he's stopping James Harden, and that's great. But LeBron James will go out there and score you 36, and he'll go out there and guard the best wing player if he has to. But he'll also dish out 10 assists. He'll make sure that Kyle Korver gets the shots in the places that he needs. He'll rotate over and cover that defense. He'll guard the opposing team's center if he has to. He'll play point for 40 minutes a game. To me, it's not even a comparison at the moment. I think LeBron James is still one stratosphere above Kawhi and everybody else in the league right now.
But Kawhi does everything that you just said LeBron does, and better. He does it better at this point in time. He does it better, and that's what I'm saying. But you're saying that he's on a different stratosphere. Yes, in terms of his greatness and his legacy, yes. But in this point in time, it's closer than you think, and I would have to give the edge to Kawhi.
I got to agree with James. I think LeBron is just on another level. I think his ability to draw all the attention on the court to him, and then for him to make the right call in terms of whether it's, a pass, a shot, I think he's just, there's nothing in comparison to him. I'm not trying to put down Kawhi. I think Kawhi's still playing amazing, but I think that ability of LeBron to just draw all that attention and to make the right call is something that can't be beat.
Danny, I think you should look up Kawhi Leonard's assist stats for the playoffs. I'd be surprised if he's averaging more than 5.
I think he's got his career high. I think it was 8 the other day, which I thought was surprising. I thought he would have had at least 10 in his career so far, but apparently not. But that's only the one edge I give LeBron. The way he makes other people that much better. But like, he's got Curry, he's got Kevin Love, he's got J.R. Smith, Tristan Thompson. Like, they're all quality players.
If you put Kawhi Leonard on the same Cavs team, I don't think they'd be nearly as good. If you put LeBron James on the same Spurs team, I think they would be as good or even better.
Well, I don't know, but we can just agree to disagree. But I'm jumping on my own bandwagon here. And you guys will be missing out. You guys have missed out on this bandwagon.
I'm hitching my wagon to the winner, LeBron. Look him up, bro.
Now that with round one out of the way, I think the topic that everyone has been talking about is where will the Clippers go from here? They've had that core group of guys for so many seasons. They've still failed to get to the conference finals. Is it time to blow it up? Is it time to restart? And if so, what do you think the right trade moves will be?
I definitely think it's time to blow it up and start fresh. I think everyone is tradable except for Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan. Blake Griffin has to go. I don't think he's being utilized the right way. Doc Rivers uses Blake Griffin as the point forward, and that's just taking the ball away from Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan's pick and roll, which is almost unstoppable. I think Blake Griffin has to go. I think JJ Redick, he had a terrible season, and it seemed like the chemistry with JJ Redick and the rest of the team isn't that great. So I think he's gone as well. The rest of the Clippers team are rubbish and trash, so whatever, they can go as well.
Do you think the Clippers should sign and trade Blake or let him go for nothing?
Sign and trade, definitely.
I think they'll get some value out of him still. He's so injury prone and he's just had so many issues over the past few seasons.
Well, someone will take him.
I'm sure Brooklyn will put their hand up. All right, James, what do you reckon?
I'm sure Brooklyn would put their hand up. Anybody's an upgrade right now over the Brooklyn squad.
Yeah, but the thing is, no one would want to take anyone back from Brooklyn. Hey, I'm happy with our squad. Hey, wait till next year.
So I agree and disagree with Danny. Definitely time to blow it up. I don't know how you would find trade partners for Blake or Chris Paul. I think DeAndre Jordan is probably the easiest one to trade. And if you're going to blow it up, he's got to go first. I think you're going to have to try and sign and trade both Blake and CP. But with CP eligible for like a $200 million contract or something, nobody's going to take that. I think New York is probably the only team that would take that. And that's Carmelo for Chris Paul. And Carmelo's not going to want to play for the Clippers with no Chris Paul. So you can forget about that. You're in a do if you damn, do if you don't situation. You let them go for nothing and you've lost 2 All-Stars for nothing. You sign them and can't trade them. You're stuck in the rut. You sign them and trade them and you're probably not going to get anywhere near the value back. So I think they're pretty screwed either way.
It's definitely one team that won't be calling for DeAndre, and I think Mark Cuban's going to stay away from that one.
Looking back at that was just so silly. It's embarrassing now, actually, what they did.
I agree. What about this news coming out today that Porzingis may be a potential trade to the Clippers? Do you think he'll be able to slot into that system if they kept all that core group?
I mean, I saw the news article. He tweeted Los Angeles Clippers 4 smiley faces and then deleted it shortly after. But who are they going to trade to get Porzingis?
If there's anyone you could get a steal out of, it's the Knicks.
But for me, Porzingis has to be the future of the New York Knicks franchise. And you don't trade away a very young cornerstone 7-footer who can block shots and shoot threes for I think Blake's like 28-year-old injury-prone power forward who can't shoot, who's losing his ability to dunk. If the Knicks made that trade, Phil Jackson has got to go, Dolan's got to go, everybody's got to go. That organization is done.
Phil Jackson will do it because I think Phil Jackson wants to get fired. And, if he does do it and Dolan authorizes that, all the New Yorkers would go crazy and they would protest, I think. I think it'd be a good thing just because we'll get rid of Dolan and Phil Jackson.
Not to mention, Porzingis coming in was what the Knicks had hoped was their saving grace. They had a bunch of bad seasons before that. They're signing Melo to a big deal, getting Phil in, but, neither of those things having a big impact. And then out came Porzingis and everyone thought that was a terrible pick by the Knicks, but all of a sudden it turned out to be their saving grace. And now, if they're going to trade him to the Clippers, what's left in the Knicks?
Joakim Noah's 4-year contract.
Yeah, I think we can spend a whole episode talking about the dysfunction of the New York Knicks, and maybe that's something we'll talk about during the off season when we're hearing all the trade rumors.
All right, last but not least, let's move on to our wagon of the week topic. And it's got to be Lonzo Ball's shoes, the Z02 Primes. Now, they just came out with a whopping price tag of $495.
Show me the money.
What do you guys think of these shoes?
Are they crazy? Is he out of his mind? These are probably some of the ugliest shoes I've ever seen. Nobody's going to pay $495 for these pieces of crap. They look like KD 9s, just with no Nike symbol. Who does he think he's kidding?
To be honest, I hate to say it, I don't mind them. I don't mind them. But not for that price point.
Show me the money.
If there was stock standard $200, I don't mind them. Good for the Ball family. Good on them for going independent, fighting the system. Good on them.
I wouldn't pay anything over $80 for that.
I mean, to a degree, I agree that, good on them for trying to start a brand, fight the system against the big corporate brands like Nike and Adidas. So they got balls trying to start their own company. But if this shoe sinks, that's all three of his sons' shoe deals gone. Nike and Adidas aren't going to take them if their big baller brand doesn't kick off.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a really risky move on his behalf. I just don't understand some of the decisions he makes on behalf of his children. I mean, the biggest thing I would say about all his rants and about releasing this shoe at $495 is he has set a target on his son's back before he's even played one game in the NBA. If I'm an established player with an established shoe, or if I'm working at Nike, I'm calling LeBron, I'm calling Kevin Durant, I'm saying, every time you get out there against this guy, I want you to embarrass him, and I want you to embarrass him hard.
But to be honest, though, I think the NBA players are going to have a lot of not a lot of respect for the father, but I think a lot of respect for Lonzo, because Lonzo actually carries himself quite well. I don't think that urge to want to destroy Lonzo Ball on the court is going to be that high. I mean, I think for point guards, yes, maybe, but in a general overall league, I don't think so.
Even after his dad made those comments about the white kids not being able to defend is why they lost the NCAA.
Look, I'm not defending. I'm going to put it out there. I'm not defending LeVar Ball. I'm not defending LeVar Ball like in terms of what he says. But I have to give credit where credit is due, and he did well to raise his kids, financial security for his family and all this stuff. He could have done it in a better way, yes, but yeah.
I still think he is a media guru. He's got his name in the media. He's got all of us talking about it. Sure, he says some pretty controversial and ridiculous things, but doing it all for the name of his sons, and he's doing it for the brand. And now he's released a shoe that's got a ridiculous price point. Now you know about it, and now maybe if you see it in the store, you might have a double take.
And you'll never buy it. You'll see it in the store, you'll have a double take, you'll laugh about how dumb it was, and you'll never buy it.
All right, so are we on this Lonzo Ball Z02 Prime bandwagon? Are we on that, or are we not?
I've got 1 foot in. I think he's a media guru. I wouldn't personally be paying for it. The 1 foot in won't have that shoe on, but I think he knows what he's doing.
2 foot flatly out. I'll let this bandwagon go over the cliff by itself without me, thank you.
I'm with Thomas. I'm 1 foot in without the shoe.
I can't believe you guys are 1 foot in on this. Are you guys serious? They are going to tank.
I'm 1 foot in with my Kobe 8s that look exactly the same.
And cost $200
Exactly right.
All right, that's all we've got time for. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Hopefully we'll get you another podcast soon, and thanks for listening.